Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's my afternoon here, never mind. I have to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Vivian Aqua, the Inclusive Workplace Wellness Advocate, and it has been a day. So forgive me, but I'm showing up as my true self. And yes, I do stumble. I do make some learnings that I have to do. But today is a very impactful show because we are honoring International Women's Day. I know it's the 9th of March, and I know that I'm a day too late, but then again, I'm using this show to highlight that we need to have International Women's Day on every day. So I'm celebrating International Women's Day 365 days in the year so that we celebrate women wherever they are, international, local, national, doesn't matter. We need to lift women as we climb. So that's why I'm doing this. But before starting with the official show, I do, however, want to address the interview, the impactful interview. I'm not going to share all the things about the interview because that will take me some time, but I will address certain highlights of what I discovered. And the fact that, even Buckingham Palace has HR. And this is my take on it. HR to me, I've been in situations where HR to me really let me down, really disappointed me because you trust them. You trust them because they are supposed to keep people safe. They are supposed to provide the best employee journey or employee experience for everyone. When someone shares their true self and when someone addresses a challenge that they are having with a coworker or with an outsider because they are attacking them from the outside or attacking them from the inside, we are supposed to lean on HR. But when we lean on the traditional role model of HR, this is what happened. And this is how people feel like they are not supported and they feel like they need to leave. This is the same thing that is happening in the workplace. There's nothing different. In this case, it is different because it's done via the media. It's done because of the situation with Harry and Meghan, but we have to bring it back to the things that we can learn from the situation that Meghan and Harry are going through and what they are sharing. It goes beyond of if you believe them, if you don't believe them, but I do have to admit I'm team Meghan and Harry. If you don't believe them, that's totally the thing that you need to look into deeper. If you do believe them, that's also fine. But what I want you to do is to learn from their experience of what they are sharing, that it's still unfortunately happening in the workplace. And that's why I want to, as a Black woman, as a woman of color, I need to address something that is happening over and over again and too often. And I'm happy that we are in an age where we can talk about it, we can address it, and we can say something about it. And I'm going to share something that is shared. So the polarity is precisely the issue. The difference in treatment between Meghan and Kate is one of the clearest examples of the misogynoir at play, and a reminder that if they can do that to the Duchess, it's happening to Black women every day. Yes, it's that time where my son is here. So yeah, wat rusten. Slaap lekker. It's that time, but I just want to support women in general, but also predominantly Black women in general, saying that you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. And I just want you to see the example that Megan shared, see how the lessons that she shared, what you can do about it, and address it. Find your ally, find somebody that you can confide in and do something about it. Because no job, and I repeat, and I know that maybe my clients or some people will hate me for this, but no job is worth it for you to lose your mental health. No job is worth it for you to become less of yourself. So check in with each other. Make sure that your coworker is doing well and is doing okay. On that note, today is all about International Women's Day, Choose to Challenge. And I definitely challenge myself by bringing in 6 people today in this conversation. So bear with me. I am going to bring them up one by one so that I can properly introduce them. And first of all, I am going to say Melissa Romero. She's a purpose-driven go-getter, and she's living her purpose of giving others a voice and helping close the gender gap by starting Lean in Netherlands. But Melissa is also the founder of Baubo. And if you want to know more about that, please reach out to Melissa. Daniela Felletti is a multilingual professional specialized in diversity, inclusion advisory on the executive level, a lecturer and a speaker in the inclusive leadership. Debo Harris is a non-executive board director and also runs the ConfidenceVault, a consultancy to help women reach the next level of greatness in their career or business. And Sinead Sharkey-Steenson is a career and leadership coach who helps more than 5,000 women to elevate their careers. And we rise by lifting others. That's her mantra. Martijn Boomsma, the only guy who's brave enough to have this conversation amongst us. Martijn Boomsma is an entrepreneur by heart and co-founder and CEO of Hatch. And Maybelline Plechik, she is the founder and author of Ad Vitame, and she loves reading books, art, music, tinkering with gadgets, and trying new technologies. And I am truly excited by having them here on the panel. And let's start with the first question, because this year's theme is Choose to Challenge. What is your challenge for the leaders with influence and power? Let's start with Maybelline.
Well, right on topic, Vivian, perfect timing about the HR. What I do challenge leadership is to be more concise and be specific and accountable about HR. We need to make sure that when people speak up and they voice their opinions, when they voice their issues, there's no retaliation. It's a toxic culture that we're experiencing, especially during the pandemic. It's elevated. People are dealing with mental stress. So we need to speak about that reality, those difficult conversations.
I totally agree. Thank you for sharing that. Sinead.
Well, I'm choosing to challenge, and I'm asking leaders to choose to challenge the backward slide of women's careers. So this pandemic, women have had a battle on their hands before now. And then during this pandemic, with all the extra pressures and challenges that women are facing, they're leaving the workforce in droves. They're having to juggle so much just to survive. And I want leaders to step up and recognize that they have to support their women and do more, because it's not good enough to hold somebody back just because they've had to deprioritize their career right now. That's just not right. And women will be really badly punished by this situation.
Thank you. Melissa.
I have a little bit of a different challenge, and I choose leaders in general, leaders in organizations, but also leaders as in the leaders in each one of us as a personal leader, to challenge the taboo and the stigma around menopause. And we can talk about that later, but for those who don't know it, menopause is a natural transition that is going to happen to everybody born with ovaries at a certain point in time, either medically induced or in a natural way. And it's time that we start talking about that and getting ready for it on time. Because whenever I share with some people, they say, oh, I'm only 40, I'm only 42. I'll introduce you to my sister who's already 50 or something like that. No, dear sisters, we need to realize up front what's going to happen to us. When you were 10 or 11, maybe already your mothers, if you had the luck to have them with you, was already preparing you for something called the period or menstruation. Yeah. Who is there for us to tell us what's going to happen to us when the transition comes? And believe me, it's going to come. And currently 90% of women are taken by surprise and are not finding the support and the resources out there. So I choose to challenge the taboo and the stigma around the menopausal transition, and inviting also leaders in organizations talking about HR. Whenever somebody's pregnant, we are very clear about policies. Even a male manager can, congratulate you and organize your leave and how you come back, etc. If you as an individual go to HR in most of the organizations and say, hey, I'm dealing with some struggles regarding my menopausal transition, it's like, wow, TMI, I don't want to know about that. It's not fair. Too many women are leaving the workplace too early because of that as well. That is my challenge.
Thank you, Melissa. Martijn, you're muted.
Classic, very classic. So where to begin? I mean, all right, so let's begin at something really practical. So to challenge the leaders of now, I would start with something that we're already talking about for a couple of years here in the Netherlands at least, and that's paternity leave. And so I would start with that. And then also I saw a question, okay, to challenge yourself. So I would say get into more messy conversations. And into messy conversations, I mean difficult, vulnerable conversations about gender equality. When I will shortly explain, when I was 7 years old, it was in 1985, my mother came out of the closet when I was 3 years, so 1981, and had a relationship with a woman. And the teacher back then said to my mother at a parent-teacher meeting, oh, you can really notice Martijn has no man at home, no father figure at home. Because I didn't have a father figure at home. I am raised by two women, and of course my very artistic, crazy father. But so I don't have this upbringing of a father figure, classic father figure role. And I really can recommend it to everybody. So to change the narrative about what is a good leader, to change the narrative of what is a good father, to change the narrative. Because I feel, of course, women, strengthen your courage, develop your muscles and go for it. But at the same time, the men need to also to really understand that the time of knights in shiny armors on horses is over. So it's not only the women need to change, it's mostly also the men who really needs to redesign their thinking of a strong leader. They need to redesign their thinking of what is a good way to manage the company. It's almost like we always hate Vladimir Putin, but everybody also loves him. Or we always hate royals and everything, but then everybody also loves them. So it's this double standards that we really need to do something. So I challenge the leaders and also myself to get into those messy conversations, not to avoid them.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Daniela.
Hi, everyone. It's hard to be the fourth one. You said so many things that was already popping in my head. I would just complete with what I've been really working hard to is to challenge perceptions through unconscious bias learning, like really educate yourselves. I'm challenging leaders, corporates, individuals, and myself, answering the Alejandra question. I'm challenging my unconscious bias every day, as Martin as well mentioned, like putting myself in really different kind of situations and talking to different people and challenging also myself to get into where I don't want to be, especially when we challenge leaders and corporates. I also challenge them to invest in the business strategy, like putting inclusion as part of the core business. This has been happening now, like this period of human rights, this human rights thing. They call you as a speaker and want you to do conference for free because we don't have budget. So when you say you don't have budget, you're not investing in the core business strategy. for inclusion. So I'm not coming as a speaker. I'm not interested in making marketing. So this is what I challenge also companies, HRs, to really bring more argumentation, do something, and invest.
Debo, thank you, Daniela. Debo?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm a bit like Daniela. I've had to sort of pick through everything else that people are saying. I was thinking, so what am I challenging? And then I remembered that I did a lot of challenging last year after George Floyd. But it wasn't George Floyd that worried me. It was the Amy Cooper incident that happened on the very same day. Because most of us, if we're professionals, we live and work with the Amy Coopers, the ones who provide those microaggressions and micro insults, micro assaults and micro invalidations. The people who sit in a boardroom, and we know the research, and here's what we know. Women are overtaught, so they're interrupted twice as often as their male colleagues. If you're a woman of color, the stats are worse. Women are often given a lower pay grade. They're often asked to provide twice as much evidence for roles that they go for projects that they're on. They're even questioned when they're in leadership roles. And the stats are worse for women of color. So for any one of the stats that we talk about, we're always going to have that other sentence that says the stats are worse for women of color. Yeah. So I'm not challenging the leaders anymore. There's no need to challenge them. I've had conversations with them last year. I've had the difficult conversations with them last year. The friends who phoned me up and who said, I didn't know it was this bad, but it's not as bad in the UK. It's terrible in the United States. It's not as bad in Europe. It's not as bad in the UK. And we can point to things like the Windrush scandal, where we've embedded unconscious bias and institutional racism within the very fabric of our legislation. We can find comparisons. And for us in the UK, it's not really sensible for us to look across the pond and say, oh, well, it's America, because America was our colony. And I think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So here's the thing that I'm challenging on this year. I am challenging the HR directors. I want to see more Dr. Crushers. And anyone who is a Trekkie, I'm talking about Star Trek Next Generation, although the OG was the best. But we're not even going to talk about that, Maybelline. I know we're going to have a conversation. I'm using this as the example for those of you who understand. We need more Dr. Crushers in the workplace. We need more Dr. Crushers around the boardroom table. Because Dr. Crusher was the only person who could remove Jean-Luc Picard when Jean-Luc Picard was a danger to the ship, when he was a danger to the staff. We need more Dr. Crushers. And so those are who I'm challenging. And as for myself, I think I did my challenge. So the person who said, I've already done my challenge. So we did a 40-hour online International Women's Day that started on the 7th of March with women in New Zealand and Australia and Tonga Islands. And we literally chased the sun around the globe having International Women's Day. And that's why it was 40 hours, because we had 24 hours of International Women's Day all day, everywhere. Yeah. And we ended up with women in Hawaii and Anchorage. And if that is not a challenge to run a 40-hour International Women's Day, hand over the platform to get 2 hours of sleep, have people like Melissa come on and speak eloquently about women in tech, women, femtech, and there was nothing we didn't cover. And we knew when it was hitting hard because you see some people leave the chat. So Melissa's one actually had a lot of people join the chat from men who wanted to know, who wanted to hear. And I just want to thank people who did that. But that was my challenge. I think I'm all challenged out for this year. So that was my final challenge. So I chose to challenge myself on that. And now the rest of the year is to challenge the HR directors and help put their feet to the fire, because they're the ones who need to step up this year.
Thank you. And addressing that, so my personal challenge is doing the self-reflection, doing the self-reflection of doing better. But I'm also challenging leaders. And when I say leaders, the people that follow me know that I'm addressing those who also activate self-leadership. So every time that I'm talking about leadership, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you as a self-leader, where you can move the needle for everyone. I know today it's about International Women's Day, but I want you to stretch your mindset a little bit further to challenge yourself to amplify diversity, equity, and inclusion in whatever way, and challenge yourself on a daily basis. That's what I want to do. Let me see what other question that we have, because let's bring in this question of 2021. It's 2021. I am turning 41 this year, and we are still talking about the business case for gender diversity. And I will rotate this different. Can you share why this is happening? Debo, let me start with you.
I'll give you a short answer. Because it's not hitting home with the people who are the decision makers. Although I may have a personal desire to eradicate gender inequality in my lifetime, I'm currently told it's 200 years. In my country, they had a conversation for a couple of sessions. They showed one television documentary, and we banned plastic bags within 3 years of it coming up. If you can ban plastic bags within 3 years, I can't see why we can't do something to eradicate gender diversity for over 50% of the population.
Which makes me think about...
Well, I believe it's because the women or men who are sharing the pillow next to the women or men who are the decision makers are not as engaged.
Yeah.
So, until it hits home, until it is their daughter, their aunt, their mum coming home with that story, we're not going to see that change happen.
But it's also about we are being asked to provide a business case for the diversity aspect, but we don't ask that rhetoric question backwards. Like, is there a business case for men in the workplace? Is there a business case for white men in the workplace? Have you seen the figures? Have you seen the stats? Have you seen that?
Yes, and there's a business case for change. As Sheryl Sandberg herself said, we've left the running of the world and we've left the running of the economy to men for quite a while.
Yeah.
How's that gone? Maybe it's time for change.
On that note, Daniela.
Thank
you, Debo.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is hot. Yeah, it's part of what I said before. There is a disconnection from where who is in the top management and what is happening in the rest of the company, and they put it only on the hands of HR. HR needs to find something to convince the top management to do something. So that's why when I visit HRs and to understand what is happening, like I will give you an example from a company I visited in Spain in January 2019, before COVID. This man told me he became in charge. He was not in charge of D&I, but then they signed the chart and everything. He had to bring some results, right? So he suggested for the first time, 25 years after, like, since they exist as a multinational, they decided to promote 2 women for the first time in business units in Spain. And in 2017, it happened for the first time, and they actually succeeded. They exceeded the the goals and everything. So they could say to the CEO, "Hey, we have, good results. So now we can make them more women get promoted." So he was like, "I need data." They are open to it. His answer, the CEO, he is very open. Yeah, he finds it. But if I don't have really the results to show, it's because it's still a patriarchy thing. The hierarchy, the all pyramidal system is still there. Unfortunately, we still need to shake up the structure to make it happen. This is my say.
Thank you. I totally get that. And Martijn, as the brave man amongst us, what do you have to share here?
So let me begin with I find it ridiculous that there is a need for a business case for this topic, to be honest. I cannot imagine, and I totally agree with Debo, WTF, I don't want to use any other way of saying that. I don't see why there is a need for a business case. I feel it like a distraction, but it comes to my opinion that if you sometimes look at the chains and how the chain started, sometimes it starts with activism and it starts with revolution and protest, more than business cases. So if you look at as humans, we don't like change at all. We don't want to change. So men, they're okay. They have no problem. Women, they're okay. They have no problem. Doesn't really matter. That's something we have really in common, both men and women. We don't want to change. We don't like it. So in order to push for a change, I don't think we should have a business case based on the past. Because we need to make a business case on the future.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of if you talk with an investor, then it's more about discounted cash flow to take on okay, what are we going to earn in the future? But yeah, I have no clue why we're still talking about it. I feel like let's start doing. And if men don't want to change, then you don't need this, right? So do it anyway. There is no need for a business case.
Yeah, thank you. Melissa.
Yeah. Honestly, this is a topic that is so frustrating for me. Indeed, I also don't understand why a business case would be needed. Simply, we're 51% of the population. It is only natural if you want to reach the max potential of a population. Let's say there's going to be, let's just say, musicians. Amazing male musicians and amazing female musicians. There's also going to be crappy male musicians and crappy female musicians. So statistically speaking, it just makes a lot of sense to have a pool that is 50-50. And then out of there, you will really get the best, most competent people, independently, if it's a male or woman, because that's the whole thing that people start saying, yeah, but it's forcing it, putting quotas, bringing women in, blah, blah. Sorry, the system has been forced in a natural way already. We are having a way more than a fair share of crappy men. Because let's face it, there are great men, but when an organization is made out of 90% men, that means that you are over proportionally, just statistically speaking, also counting on those that are not as great, and you're missing out on the great women. So that for me. And it reminds me also of RBG when she said, I hope, when they asked her, like, well, do you hope for the court, for Supreme Court in the United States to become 50-50 after you're gone, whatever. And she say, or what is the perfect number of women? And she say 9. And everybody was shocked. Oh, wow, this woman, she wants to have 100%, 9 women, 100% of judges out there. Why is that? She said, well, because for centuries, it was also only men. So it's time we catch up. So if we want to catch up, they need to do it the other way around. So how is that controversial? And nobody thinks it's really controversial that there are organizations like the one of Daniela was mentioning, where you promote to women and all of a sudden it's not enough of a business case. Yeah, a company of 25-year-old, come on, people. I mean, let's wake up. So that's, I don't know if that is a rant or an answer to your question, but simply statistically speaking.
It's your answer. It's your rant and answer.
Exactly. So I'll leave it there.
I totally get that. And also, we are at an age, or we are in an era where we women, we don't realize our power. We don't realize how we can activate our power as a customer or as a stakeholder or as a potential coworker or employee. I would say, let's activate and unite and activate that power so that we want change from the inside out, but sometimes we need to nudge, kick, move it further so that change happen a little bit faster than what's happening now.
Can I say something related to that, Vivian, just really quickly? Indeed, back to the topic of menopause, women don't realize that there is 80% of the population that is women that are the ones making decisions regarding the health decisions at home and the buying decisions at home. And still, women bodies are under studies, underfunded, under-researched. It's not okay. We're the ones making the decisions and paying for it. So it's time that also it serves, the system serves us, because indeed we need to realize the power that we have. So thank
you. Sinead.
I love that, Melissa. I agree totally. And with what everyone said, yeah, we shouldn't need a business case, but we are in fact living through the greatest business case there ever was, because women are holding the shit together right now. The world is turning because women are holding together families, homes, businesses, and rocking it all, and leading countries like none of the men are managing. Sorry, guys, but look at the cases where women are really have dealt with this situation so well. And if you want a business case, that's it. Like, we should not be asking anything else. Job done.
Thank you. Maybelline.
Yeah, but I agree 100% with everybody. But I think the missing piece is the storytelling, right? For a long time, women are too shy to advertise the great successful things that they already do, whether they're a mom, single parent, especially LGBTQ plus, all the intersectional topics. A lot of people don't even know what that definition means. Don't even know what a microaggression is, what is mental wellness and health. And the other piece that I think there's a big disconnect is the social status. We talk about as if we are explaining in a dictionary. I think we need to explain it in a layman terms, and don't forget the people that live in the rural area that don't have the technology that sees this, they're missing out. I think we need to address the TV channels broadcasting, because those are the people that are not hearing this. They're not seeing this. They don't have internet. They don't have Kindle or mobile phones. They still have paperback. They're way back in the boonies. And in the end of the day, the most poorest, the most less privileges are the ones that are suffering the pain. They're the women that are having kids, they're dying, they're being given, cultural, tribal, antiquated rules of life, right? So we can't be too stuck up and too high above that we cannot reach across the social class. So we need to go back down to basic. If we really want to share diversity, we should be able to explain it without a dictionary.
Yeah, love that. I'm also mindful of the time, so I am going to challenge all the speakers or all the experts with this following question. What can men do to become ally for women? And I want you to give a verb, say something short of why, and then we can go on to the next. So let's start with Martijn. What can men do to become ally for women in the workplace?
So I think, first of all, a verb, space, give space.
Why?
Yeah, why? Well, I think if we're talking about the 90% of the leadership roles and all the work is done by men at the moment, then I think that's not right. So I totally agree. And you have to actively look and actively work on that as a man, to make sure that you're not stepping in the biggest trap and unconscious bias traps that there are. I'm looking for the right person and it happens to be a man crap. So you have to give space, and you have to be patient. But it first starts by, if you are a man leading a company, you have to make a decision. I want to give space to women leadership, and that means that's a decision. It's a very simple decision, and that means that you are opening up half of your company, or a more equal share in the leadership. So I think for what men can do is really making sure that glass ceiling is gone.
Okay, Daniela.
Listen actively. Listen really, and actually putting in action what they listen, not only passively listen. When I talk about active listening, is taking a step back and really considering what the other is saying, creating actions behind it. It comes also with receiving feedback, right? Leaders are especially used to give feedback, not receive. So when I learn to listen, I will be fully present, and I will really be open to what has to come. And then curiosity, vulnerability, humility, behind is how I see listening would help challenge and be an ally more often.
Okay, thank you. Debo? Mute it.
Thank you. I was saying reject, but hype more.
Can you share some context? Because you're leaving the cliffhanger aspect.
So glad you asked. Reject more of the opportunities to take the stage. When you're asked to speak as a leader, when you're a leader in an industry and they ask you to come to that fantastic conference or come on that massive Zoom, reject it and give an alternative. I'm terribly sorry, my diary's full. But here's Melissa.
Yeah.
She's in a fintech. Here's Maybelline. Here's Daniela.
Yeah.
And I would really appreciate it if instead of me, you brought her onto that, because she can speak about it. She's our top person in our company. So
that
you're a champion more, but that means actively rejecting more of these offers and giving an alternative. And if you don't have an alternative, it means you have to go out and find them. And that builds your network of great women who can speak on your organization's behalf and allow them to limelight.
Maybelline.
Oh, I'm torn now after what Debo said. I was torn with either elevate, challenge, or opt-in keywords. So I'm saying opt-in to change the status quo, opt-in to speak up, opt-in to fight for heroism, to protect and respect women as they are.
Sinead. Thank you, Sinead.
Open your eyes, open your minds, like look around you. If you're on a call, how many women are on it? Like simple. If you're looking around at your team, looking at your board, looking at your leadership, are there enough women around the table? And if it's only 50%, the answer is no. It's simple as that. Open your effing eyes.
Yeah.
That's my my PG version.
Thank you. Melissa.
Yeah, I want to say maybe something that it might be controversial, but I'm not a big fan in the context of men of the word ally, because it seems that it gives kind of room for choosing. So some men can choose to be an ally, and then the rest can just keep going with the status quo. So, and this is something that is as important to them, should be as important to men as it is to women. So that's the first thing I wanted to say regarding the word ally. Now, what message would I give to men in general? It would be to try to, let's say, emulate the leaders that they like, the traits that they most admire in leaders. Why am I saying that? It is proven once and over again, and that, you know, the traits that we admire now are not the traits that we used to admire 100 years ago. So yesterday I was also in a panel, and we were talking about new leadership and what does it mean and what traits need to be new leadership, you know, for this world. And I asked the moderator, which was a guy, I was like, give me an example. What is the role model that you have as leadership? Obama. Why? Oh, he's close to the people. He's really eloquent, and he's blah, blah. I'm like, there you go. Those are the types of traits that we admire in leaders. And I know that we wrongly associate certain hard skills or traits with masculine traits and certain traits with feminine traits without willing to put labels and tab on masculine or feminine. We do not admire a leader because they're really great at math, or because they are amazing at financial modeling, or because somebody even asked me, like, what about if the person admires Trump? I'm like, 100% of the time they're gonna say, because they say it like it is, because he's great, one of us, talking with people like us. So even despicable people like Trump would have things that
Melissa,
people admire.
What are you doing?
Sorry, I'm taking too much time. But yeah, so the point is The point is just try to emulate those traits that you admire really, and forget about the King Kong fake models of the past. We need real human so that you can really open your effing eyes, as Sinead said.
I really love what you are sharing, and I want to end it with the following: that if you as a guy or as a man have a daughter, have an auntie, have a sister, have a mother, have a grandmother, how would you feel if somebody treated them the way you are treating the women in the workplace? If that is good, then that's totally fine. But if you are treating the women in the workplace really harsh and you wouldn't wish that upon your daughter, your auntie, your sister, your best friend, let's change the narrative. Let's change the narrative. So we have come at the last question, which is very challenging now. Women are leaving the workplace because of the lockdown and because of the traditional roles. What can companies do to prevent women from leaving? And I'll start with Melissa.
Yeah, that's a really harsh one. And if you saw the statistics also in the United States, I think it was something like 100% of them were women of color, or Latinos and Asian and Black, African American women, I thought. Terrible. What companies can do is, I would say, really listen and open indeed your eyes and see what people are struggling with that you can help with. Because if they're leaving, it's because, the pandemic is affecting them disproportionately, but it's because they need to, juggle too many balls. This is because of the combination of, taking care of the kids plus work plus. So I honestly, I find it really, really hard to have an answer on this question if people don't know what the sources are of the struggle of these women. And clearly also it's not the role of the workplace to tell a partner to help 50-50 at home. But can there be more flexibility given even to these women? Can there be, and clearly right now I'm talking about the United States, where I know the governments are less protective than the governments here in Europe. So people can be let go in no time, but with no guarantee. But I think we need to better understand the personal situations of the people that we are trying to support.
Sinead, thank you. Sinead.
Sorry, I was muted. I agree with Melissa, listen, support, and be more flexible with expectations. So flexible with how work is done. I mean, we've had to embrace flexibility in this last year, but it's also being flexible in the expectations set. Like, if you've been set objectives, targets, are they realistic in this current climate? Are you setting people up to fail and ramping up the pressure unduly? And you only have to look at, past performance of your people and recognize this is the most challenging time. So have the conversation. What can we do to support you better?
Yeah. Thank you. Maybelline.
Just confirming what Melissa and Sinead said, listening is key. Definitely be creative and flexible, especially now that we found that we can work remotely. There are many roles that can be flexibly changed, make it more flexible, change the shifts of the schedule, just to allow them the time to be able to do personal care, wellness, and health. I'm going to keep repeating that because that's a problem right now with suicide and different things, right? And even violence that they're dealing with, because especially for the ones that are left by themselves and they don't have protections, they're also in danger physically. Their deaths, all the harassments that they're facing, where else could they go with COVID-19? It's not secure even for the children. So really, a lot of leveraging the HR tools, the benefits from the insurance, have those conversations, get creative. What are some subscriptions they can have? Even Calm, meditation, things like that can sign up for. Any employee resource group development. Those are all needed. They're not optional. None of that is optional. It needs to be discussed. We need to put that in place as a prescriptive way to assist from all grounds. We should have open conversations of family leave, especially people taking care of their parents, anybody that's ill in the hospital, emergency, even taking tests, especially in school. Parents are struggling to keep in track of quarantine. So we have a very large systemic issue worldwide where we are confused. Rules are not in place, and we just need to be more empathetic, listen, just stop for a moment, give people a break, and be more understanding.
Thank you. Debo?
I was sitting here thinking about it, and then I thought, well, because of the pandemic, the whole world, apart from the areas that have technology poverty, have stepped forward maybe 3, in some cases 10 years in their technology use. And it's time for us not to waste a crisis. Many of the women who are leaving the workplace are in essential care. They're essential workers. So they can't work from home. They haven't been working from home. But there are many other women who are not in work and who don't have childcare duties. So what maybe a practical thing is for these organizations to invest in tech companies that are platforms for work. And if I can't make it to work because my child's school is shut again, that those hours could be put out so that there is a bank of women who can step up at short notice, almost like your fifth emergency service, who can cover those areas. Or maybe it's about a platform to show affordable childcare. Or maybe it's about the corporates investing in more affordable childcare so that women can know that their children are safe if they are to return to work. I also think that the organization should listen to the men. They should make paternity leave as much of a celebration rather than handing out a cigar when they hear that the man's had a child, that his spouse has had a child. It is about embedding it into the system. And as soon as they hear they're pregnant, they bring them in just like the performance plans. And they say, okay, so when is your wife or when is your partner's due? Okay, so that's 7 months. Let's start to work in now the time. Let's start to think about when you need to go to those, you need to go to the scans, and when you need to go to the classes, and start to embed in the system a change in what it means to be masculine. Because we see some really strong men who are very gentle and who are also quite alpha. So I think it's a two-handed thing. Some practical things to give a bank of women an opportunity to provide and bring their money in, and something else for our men to remove that masculinity and take some heads. Take some heads of some of those men who earn money for the organization, but who are just, when they say who the best, redefine what you mean by best and take some heads. Because as the philosopher Richard Nixon said, forget the hearts and minds, grab them by the short and curlies, the hearts and minds will follow. So take some heads in the first instance to show that you're serious.
Okay.
Do it with kindness.
Clear. Thank you. Daniela.
Wow. Just amazing. I think the word that comes to my mind that connects every single opinion here is trust. Because companies are worried about not being able to control something. So when you give flexibility, when you give the resource, and you create the safe space as well, creating safe space to who is suffering, really struggling with situations at home of violence, for example, you need also to trust when you give them the resource and the flexibility, trust them. Creating this relationship of trust and giving also the option of saying no. It's a discussion I had recently when, for example, the example of a woman having a baby, right? And they're not in the room and there is a promotion and say, oh, so well, it's not, and now it's pandemic. So she just had a baby. She's working from home and it's not possible. Well, if I ask her, I may put her in pressure as well, because she wants to have the promotion and the baby and everything. So what I heard, it was complicated to actually also bring the conversation to this woman. But no, they need to be the ones to take the decision. And you should not expect a yes. You just need to ask, and expecting a yes or no. So trust and give another opportunity later, and bring the conversation to the table. I think you all said so many great things already, and it complements each other.
Martijn?
Yes, wow. I also agree with Daniela and everybody else that it's all about trust, and to give to connect actually with my personal situation. In June, in the middle of the 2 lockdowns here in the Netherlands, we got a baby girl, my girlfriend and I, and I also started a new company, this hatch thing, and my co-founder, Rowanne, who is our chief science officer, she just got a daughter in November. So there's a lot of leaves and also starting a company. And then my girlfriend got a project, a big project, City of Joy. You have to watch it if you haven't watched it on Netflix, a series, documentary. And she created a whole new fashion thing, but she had to work for 20 hours a day, 15 to 20 hours a day for the last 3 months. And I've been juggling with baby girl, sometimes even having her on my arm here, feeding milk while having a Zoom call, and then the doorbell ring, and then I had to have another meeting, and then so it's just like juggling, cooking dinner, and it's so much that for I realized actually while doing all this, it's like, whoa, it's not about doing the tasks at home. It's not about doing things. It's actually about feeling the responsibility, the ownership of everything, and the responsibility is something. So then I thought, okay, because the question is, of course, what do these companies need to do to prevent this? I would say also, of course, we need to empower women I think we need to have eyes and ears, which is very difficult, because there's no coffee machine talk about how are you doing, and etc. It's very difficult for HR to actually know what's happening in the homes, or for a manager already. It doesn't even have to be HR. So if she I feel like to have like regular catch-ups about how is it going, and not only about work, but also about how is it going at home. And then at the same time, not only doing that for women, but also empower men. So actively tell men, like, hey, can you do the dishes? I mean, we have Slack channels at companies. We have things about, so it's like, because it's always about when, for example, with homeschooling, I also have a son of 9-year-old, lots of homeschooling. It shouldn't be automatically the woman taking care and the man doing all the video calls and etc. etc. But there is kind of like a society. We created the society also based on all these values we have from the past, and we need to redesign, like I told, the narrative. So I think as an employer, as a company, we can be active in that, and we can say to men, like, hey, what did you actually do? Can you help at homeschooling? And so I feel like if we want to have it equal, and I want it equal, and I think everybody else should and is already wanting it but doesn't know it yet. But so let's make that possible for men as well. Not only paternity leave, but also just actively show them how cool it is. Because my relationship with my son is priceless after this lockdown. I really loved homeschool with him, and my relationship with my daughter. Yeah, I never actually. I love the whole Corona lockdown thing because I've been now for 8 months in some kind of paternity leave vibe that I really, really like, and it's a different relationship we built. And so yeah, it's the equal part is, I think, the most important together with trust and action. So I don't know, psychiatrists and brain neuro people, they always say, if you do something for 60 days, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So let's it's so simple, you know?
I like what everybody has shared, and I want to end with this final note, because what I'm hearing is we need to redesign how we are welcoming women, but also how we are creating an environment where women will be able to work, but know that we live in an era where we have the internet, where we have these conversations like similar like this, where people can share good things about your company or can share bad things about your company. So please be aware how you can move the needle and can be better and create inclusive work environments. So I want to thank all the guest experts of today for sharing their amazing insights. And my mind is blowing right now with everything that I've heard, but I really enjoyed this conversation. And I want to end with the final note that I want the listeners, the viewers, those who are watching the replay or listening to the replay, choose to challenge. Choose your challenge on a weekly, on a monthly, on a quarterly, or a yearly basis, and challenge yourself to do better. So next week, I am taking a break, but know that the week after that, so Monday and the Tuesday, I will be back with more of Let's Humanize the Workplace. So until then, bye, everybody.